Hello students, I am Mohan Kumari. Welcome back to MK Classes for Biology. In the previous video, I have told you about connective tissue and its types. So, in this video, I am going to explain the other two different types of tissue, animal tissues, that is muscular tissue and the nervous tissue, in the chapter Structural Organization in Animals. Now, let us go with the muscular tissue. So, muscular tissue, it is composed of modified cells with the property of contraction and elongation. The cells of the muscular tissue have the special property which can undergo contraction and elongation to bring about the movements of the body. So, muscle cells of the muscular tissue are also called muscle fibers. So, muscular tissue, muscle fibers made up of contractile proteins called actin and myosin. Because of this actin and myosin proteins, we can see the contraction and relaxation of the muscle fibers to bring about the movement in the body. So, muscular tissue muscle fibers are of three types. Those are skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. So, skeletal muscles, also called as striated voluntary muscle, smooth muscle or non-striated involuntary muscle, and the cardiac muscle. Cells of muscle tissue or muscular tissue are called muscle fibers. So, each cell, it is surrounded by a cell membrane. That cell membrane is called as sarcolemma, and inside the cell there is a cytoplasm. Now that is called as sarcoplasm. So it consists of number of parallelly arranged filaments in the sarcoplasm, and these filaments are called as myofibrils. So let us study about skeletal muscles now. So where do we see these skeletal muscles? So skeletal muscle is present attached to the skeleton or bones and the cartilage of our body. Let us see the structure of the skeletal muscle. If we see the structure of skeletal muscle, these muscle cells are unbranched. You can see there is no branches in the single muscle fiber. So muscle cells are unbranched and which consist of many nuclei. So multinucleated muscle fiber. A number of muscle fibers are bounded or bundled together in parallel fashion in this tissue. So, a sheet of tough connective tissue encloses the several bundles of muscle fibers. And this skeletal muscle, it is said to be voluntary in nature, which is under a control. This is a single muscle fiber. Each fiber is covered by a tough membrane called sarcolemma, and cytoplasm is called sarcoplasm, And the cytoplasm, it shows alternate dark and light bands in the regular alteration. Each fiber contains many nuclei. These are the properties of skeletal muscle fiber. Here is the sarcolemma, alternate dark and light bands you can see, and consist of many nuclei. So you can see in the first diagram, skeletal muscle fiber. If you can see, it is there in bundle. If you see a single skeletal muscle fiber, it is unbranched fiber which consists of many nuclei, and you can see dark and light bands, lines over there in the diagram. Those are the striations. Now let us see about smooth or non-striated or involuntary muscle. This muscular movement which is not under control. Hence, it is called as involuntary muscle. Let us see the structure. Smooth muscle fibers. You can see here the different muscle, cells of the smooth muscle. So it is smooth muscle fibers. You can see its ends. So, which are said to be pointed ends on both the sides. So here is a single smooth muscle fiber. Do not show striation. Here you cannot see any striation of alternate dark and light bands. Cell junctions between these muscle fiber holds them together. They are bundled together in the connective tissue sheath, and we know they are involuntary in function. Where do we see the smooth muscle? It is seen in the wall of the stomach, wall of the intestine. And also in the visceral organs like wall of the bladder and the wall of blood vessels made up of smooth muscles. Let us see the cardiac muscle. Where do we see cardiac muscle? Everybody know it is there in the middle wall layer of the heart, which is called as myocardium of the heart. Here is the diagrammatic view of the cardiac muscle. So outer membrane, as we know, it is called sarcolemma, and these fibers are joined at the ends by the modified sarcolemma. So here cardiac muscle fibers which are joined at the ends by modified sarcolemma, and it is called as intercalated disc. So each muscle fiber has an oval nucleus at the center and shows cross bands of dark and light bands. Muscle cells are branched. Here you can see here the cells which shows branches, and single cell consists of only one nucleus. So it is uninucleated. What is the important function of cardiac muscle? Yes, it helps in rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the heart without fatigue to pump the blood. So that is about muscular tissue. Now let us see the nervous tissue. So nervous tissue is said to be the main component of nervous system, and these tissues which are highly specialized for receiving the stimulus, and once it receives the stimulus which will be conducting to the other part of the neuron as impulse. And nervous tissue is made up of two types of cells. Those are neurons and neuroglial cells. Neurons are the specialized cells and are the information processing units of the brain, and these are responsible for conducting the impulses. So glial cells are the neuroglial cells which can protect and support and provide nourishment to the neurons. So if you can see, here is the structure of the neuron, and it is said to be the basic structural and functional unit of the nervous system. Yes, neuron is called the basic structural and functional unit of nervous system, and it is the longest cell in our body. And neurons never multiply, as there are no centrioles in the neurons. So neuroglial cells which can undergo multiplication. So it can multiply, and there are three types of glial cells, namely astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, and microglial cells. If you see the structure of neuron composed of three major parts. One is cyton, dendron, and the axon. The branches of dendron called dendrites. Here we see the cyton. Cyton contains a central nucleus and the cell organelles, and cytoplasm with the granular bodies, and those granular bodies are called as Nissls granules. These are the Nissls granules. And the main function of the cyton is which is involved in analysis and interpret the nerve impulse. So here you can see the dendron, the branches of dendron called dendrites. So dendrites are many small branched cytoplasmic processes and are called dendrites. The main function of this dendron or dendrites which convey nerve impulse towards the cell body. So impulse, or I can say stimulus first received by dendrites, transfer it into dendron to cyton of the neuron. So it conveys nerve impulse towards the cell body, that is nothing but the cyton. So now it is the axon. Axon, which is a single and quite long cytoplasmic process, and the distal end is branched. You can see the branched distal end, and these are enveloped with Schwann cells, and it forms a myelin sheet around the axon. The gap between the adjacent myelin sheet are called nodes of Ranvier. Axon is filled with the cytoplasm called as axoplasm. It lacks Nissls granules and Golgi complex. But axoplasm has large number of mitochondria, rough endoplasmic reticulum and neurofibrils. Axonal terminals having swollen bulb-like structure, and these swollen structures are called as telodendrons. The telodendrons have vesicles which consisting of small vesicles, and these vesicles which are filled with a neurotransmitter. This neurotransmitter, the most common neurotransmitter is acetylcholine, to transfer the impulse to the next neuron. Axon which conveys nerve impulse away from the cell body towards the telodendronic region. So here is the NCRT diagram. You can see the different region of the neuron, dendrites connected to dendron, dendron to cyton or the cell body, cyton to axon, axon to axonal terminals called telodendrons, and it consisting of vesicles filled with the neurotransmitter. This transmitter helps to carry the impulse into the next neuron in order to reach the central nervous system. Let us see the types of neurons. Based on the number of axon and dendrites, neurons are classified into three types: unipolar neuron, bipolar neuron and multipolar neuron. So let us see unipolar neuron. Unipolar neuron may have one axon or one dendrite only, and it is found in the embryonic stage. Bipolar neuron where have one axon and one dendrite at opposite poles, and it is found in the retina of the eye. And the multipolar neuron where have one axon and two or more dendrites, you can see it is found in the cerebral cortex region of the brain. So based on the presence or absence of myelin sheath, neurons are again classified into two types. So if the neurons which are covered by axon which is covered by a myelin sheath, then it is called as myelinated neuron. So found in central and peripheral nervous system. If the myelin sheath is absent around the axon, then it is said to be the non-myelinated neuron. It is found in autonomous nervous system. Thank you. To this, we have completed the 4 different types of animal tissues, that is epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and the nervous tissue. So in the next video, we are going to study the type study of organisms. Thank you.